What's up, YouTube? This is the Atheist Chef, and I'm starting up a new segment I'm calling I Don't Remember Learning That in Church. Basically, I'm going to be pointing out a lot of scriptures and little small, little intricate details that they kind of skipped over at church. Um, I myself was a Christian for about 15 years. And I've been to a lot of Bible studies, and I did a lot of reading. Not as much as I do now, actually, ironically. But there's a lot of things that they kind of skipped over, and I think that y'all should know these things. And I'm curious to see what your opinion is on these as well. So we're actually going to start off with our first topic right now. Oh, now. I'm going to fire this guy, whoever's in charge of this editing. Now! Alright, so I'm going to kind of give you the really brief version. Moses, raised by Pharaoh, he kills an Egyptian slave owner, or dude that was just beating up a slave. He kills him, and so he runs away. So good time passes. He gets married to an Egyptian chick named Zipporah. Zipporah? I'm just going to call her Zippy. Zippy works. So he marries Zippy, and he has a son. And God tells Moses that, hey, look, I know you killed a guy, and apparently everybody's forgotten that you killed a guy, so it's probably safe for you to come back now. So Moses grabs Zippy and his new boy, which is no name, so I'm going to call him Zippy Jr., and they head over back to Egypt. And God tells them, hey, look, go to the Pharaoh and, do the whole free my people business, and so on and so forth. That's Exodus 4:19 through 24. At least that last little bit, so you can feel free to check up on this yourself. I'm sorry, 4 through 23. But the part that I'm talking about is Exodus 4:24, and I'm going to read it right here. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. So God came down from heaven and was about to meet up with Moses and kill him. Well, what for? Why, he just told him to go back to Egypt and go free his people. Why would he want to kill him already? So we'll go on to verse 25. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. 1. You. Secondly, you. And 3. Apparently God was pissed that Moses hadn't circumcised his son. So God didn't see that coming. He wasn't aware that Moses hadn't circumcised his son. Also, what if he would have gotten away with it? What if Zippy hadn't come along and cut that foreskin off with a rock? And by the way, ow, and ew, and save Moses' life. God had just told him what to do, but yet he was going to go kill him. So that's a little weird, right? So in Exodus 7, Moses goes to the Pharaoh and says, let my people go. Like all Charlton Heston like, and Pharaoh was like, no. And Moses was like, all right. So he slams the rod down in some water, and the water turns to blood. Fishes start dying, and everybody in Egypt is running out of water. So they can't find any water in all of Egypt. So, wow, that sucks. But immediately after that, the magicians that were under the Pharaoh did the same thing. So does that mean that the blood turned back into water, so the magicians could prove that it could turn it back back into blood again? I didn't quite understand that. Secondly, if you go to verse 25, it tells you that 7 days had passed since the Lord had smote the waters. 7 days without water. In most harsh environments, you come across 3 to 7 days where you can live without water, and that's pretty much assuming you're living a pretty sedentary lifestyle and not actively working like the slaves were. So, and they say that some people can live, 8 to 10 days without water. So how did everybody not die there, or mostly everybody, or the animals and all the that stuff that were dependent on water? How did they not die? So the second plague, frogs. Moses comes up to Pharaoh and he's like, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh's like, "No," and Moses is like, "All right, frogs it is then." And so he summons up a whole crap ton of frogs, and the magicians are like, "Hey, I can do that too," and so they summon frogs as well, which is kind of weird. Assuming that, magic isn't real, how do they summon up frogs? Next point. So now we get the third plague. Moses is like, "Let my people go," and Pharaoh says, "No." And he's like, "Fine, whatever." Lice. Lice that was transformed from all of the dust from the earth. That's a lot of dust, considering you're in a high desert-ish area. That's ridiculous amounts of lice. The magicians tried, but they couldn't do it. So the magicians are figuring out, holy crap, this is really God doing this, but yet the Pharaoh's heart is hardened. And of course, I'm not going to go into too much detail because we've heard this 100 billion times, that it's God actually doing the hardening of his heart to make his glory greater. So just know that the Pharaoh is still not convinced, obviously. So, a little bit later, he sends out flies for the same reasons, because the Pharaoh isn't letting his people go. Nothing big there. But then comes the fifth plague, and it's the scripture, chapter 9, verse 3. "The hand of the Lord will bring a terrible plague on your livestock in the field, on your horses, your donkeys, your camels, and on your cattle, sheep, and goats." So, God is killing pretty much everything. Everything is going to die. So apparently God's starting to play some hardball here. He's got no water in Egypt. It's all blood now. It's been 9 days. It smells like dead frogs. There's lice everywhere, and then there's flies, rather. So with all those dead carcasses, man, that's gotta be a sweet smelling aroma. So we get the plague with the boils, not a big deal. Then we get the next plague, which is where God says he's going to rain hail on everybody and kill all the cattle again. Which we already saw the cattle die earlier when he killed the donkeys and the sheep and the etc., etc. But apparently there was more, or they didn't all die or something. But he's killing them again. He destroyed all the herbs in the field and break all the trees in the field, and he killed all the men that were in the field, so everybody's dying and dead. So that's great. Good job, God. So then God starts playing a little more hardball, and he sends out locusts, and they eat all of the grass of the field and of the land, but which is weird because though there was no water and the hail had already come down and everything was covered in deadness, but yet there was still plenty for the locusts to eat. Okay, so that's cool. Let's see what's next. So then he does another plague where he gets 3 days of darkness. And so let's do the math, folks. 7 days with the blood river that's still going on. And then a day where God told him to wait the next morning. And I think it happened again a little bit later. So it's at least 11 days with no water. Then we have maybe 3 or 4 days without food because all the animals are dead and all the herbs are dead, and a lot of bad things are happening. How everybody isn't dead or dying in that Egyptian kingdom is beyond me. But let's go on to the next point. So we get to the 10th and final plague, killing the firstborn of everybody. Except for the Jews, because, he had that really cool trick where if you painted your doorway with the blood of a lamb, because, God couldn't figure out the difference between his chosen people and the regular Egyptians. And so not only at night does he go through and kills everything, but then he also kills all of the cattle, the firstborn of the cattle. I thought all the cattle were dead twice, but now he's killing them again. So that's a neat trick, right? On a side note, you know that scripture where it talks about that they followed a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night? That's actually a volcano, which is really interesting to me because I didn't know they had volcanoes over there. But yeah, that's actually a volcano. So that's kind of cool. So let's review. About 11 days with no water. Everything's destroyed. Their foods are gone. The cattle are dead. The horses, the sheep, everything, every livestock is just dead. And so the people are on their way. So Egypt should be just utterly just destroyed, and its people should be dead. However, you go a little further down in Exodus 14, you see that the Pharaoh gathered 600 of his men in chariots. They were led by horses. Where did they get all the horses from? They were supposed to be all dead. So, apparently God doesn't kill enough, or he lied when he said he killed all the horses. But, I digress. Some of you may be watching this and saying, well, maybe he didn't kill everything. The Israelites had cattle, which also brings a good question. Why did the Israelites have cattle? Why did they allow slaves to have cattle? And then after all the Egyptians lost all their cattle and all those other animals, why didn't the Egyptians take it from the Jewish people? Apparently they either forgot or whatever. Everything in this story, though, it doesn't add up. I mean, he killed cattle 3 times. The Egyptian civilization just would have been utterly destroyed without water or food or any plant life or anything of that nature. But yet he was able to summon, 600 horses and chariots and soldiers, and which they should all be dead or dying. It just doesn't add up. So, I can't believe it. It's just another one of those things that I just sit back and say, I don't remember learning that in church. As always, thanks for watching these videos. Please leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel. Give me some thumbs up. Thanks a lot, guys. And I've been to a lot of Bible studies, and I did a lot of reading. Not as much as I do now, actually, ironically. But there's a lot of things that they kind of skipped over. And I think that y'all should know these things. And I'm curious to see what your opinion is on these as well. So we're actually going to start off. And he has a son. And God tells Moses that, hey, look, I know you killed a guy, and apparently everybody's forgotten that you killed a guy, so it's probably safe for you to come back now. So Moses grabs Zippy and his new boy, which is no name, so I'm going to call him Zippy Jr. And with our first topic right now. Oh, now. I'm going to fire this guy, whoever's in charge of this editing. Now! Alright, so I'm going to kind of give you the really brief version. Moses, raised by Pharaoh, he kills an Egyptian slave owner, or dude that was just beating up a slave. He kills him, and so he runs away. So good time passes. He gets married to an Egyptian chick named Zipporah. Zipporah? I'm just going to call her Zippy. Zippy works. So he marries Zippy. What's up, YouTube? This is the Atheist Chef, and I'm starting up a new segment I'm calling I Don't Remember Learning That in Church. Basically, I'm going to be pointing out a lot of scriptures and little intricate details that they kind of skipped over at church. I myself was a Christian for about 15 years.